Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Square Eye Syndrome podcast. I am Ben Gilman, and I do apologize if you cannot hear me well. There is a massive storm raging outside. As always, I am joined by a man who I'm really interested to see his pick today because it's our Japanese special. Tom Hill, I have one question for you. Do you know what a Pikachu is?
What's that?
Do you know what a Pikachu is?
I do know what a Pikachu is, but I will not be talking about Pikachu.
We will be here to help you out, dude. I'm interested to see your pick. Out of all of us, you're the one that doesn't have a lot of Japanese knowledge, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm joined by a man who I'm sure will have a really good pick. It's Dan Rudge.
Hi, everyone.
I'm scared of what Troy Salmon will bring up, though, because Prison School, you remember that time? Prison School turned up on this podcast? Yeah. How are you doing, Troy?
Doing good, man. That was such great times, wasn't it? I love that. Great times.
Man, that was a moment in time when you picked Prison School.
My therapist thanks you for that
one. Yeah. We are joined again by Alexandra de Toro this week. There is a reason I'm calling her Alexandra. How are you doing?
Yes, hello. So today it will be Alexandra.
Hi. And I'm also very excited because we are joined by our special guest. He is the creator of the YouTube and podcast Backlog Battle channel. And I'm a big fan. It's Alex Indigo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited to talk some Japanese shows and maybe anime. Who knows? Like we'll see where this.
Anime's gonna come up.
We'll see where this journey takes us.
My wife is kind of scarred by your intro music because I'm a big fan of your podcast, and like she hears the tune and then she knows that I'm looking for a recommendation. So she's. Yeah, it's a thing because I asked you to come onto the show because I'm a big fan of your channel because you're a Japanese RPG fan like me, and but she's kind of got a love-hate relationship because of when you recommend stuff I buy it and then she's gone, oh no, that's another one he's gonna get. It's brilliant. So thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. Like that song has been a part of my life for more than actually longer than the channel and stuff. So it's like I had I found somebody on like SoundCloud and stuff, and they had this really awesome song, and I was like, hey, can I license this? And they're like, yeah, just get me like a 3DS game, which is kind of crazy. It's like I just get to use the song because I bought them a 3DS game, and here we are still using the song like 10 years later.
Because the longer version's on your podcast, so like that's a really catchy tune. Like it's like an earworm. Anyway,
yeah.
So how is everyone today? Is everyone doing good?
Yeah.
Lovely. So we are all gathered here today to talk about Japanese television. Now, I have personally a long history with Japanese culture because one, I'm married to my wife who's not here today, but obviously she's back in Japan for a little while. But like I came in through the anime way. Like for me personally, my history was I'm trying to think what it was. Dragon Ball Z was most probably the first one. I'm sure it's the same for you, Alex. In America, Dragon Ball was kind of kicked the door down a bit for animation. Yeah. What was it like in America?
Well, there's definitely a lot of like really popular animes here that have just kind of, that have kind of sustained themselves for a long time. Like Dragon Ball's been around like since the 90s in some capacity, right? And because of just the huge boom in localization and translating for anime and manga and stuff, like there's definitely never been a better time to be a fan of those shows. And of course comic books like than it is now, right? Like we've got Evangelion of course back. There's conversations about like Attack on Titan because it's it's finally like gonna end and stuff. And just it's just really interesting also how the Hollywood has also embraced that, right? Like Death Note having like
Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that though.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Well, but yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna be very nice and let ladies go first. So Alexandra de Tolo, would you like to start us off? What is your show today? What have you got for us?
Right. So, I mean, let me just tell you guys that I don't really have a lot of knowledge. Like, I do obviously know about Dragon Ball and Pikachu, but I've not really. And I know there's like a big manga, lots of different comics that I have seen when I've been to Forbidden Planet in London.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. And I know that's like you can see it, but I haven't really been personally much involved in either reading them or watching them. But what I did start watching was Alice in Borderland,
Netflix.
Yeah.
I see. Yep.
which is a Netflix show. Because I thought, right, I'm gonna choose something to kind of ease myself into something related.
Yeah.
And obviously, I picked it because it sounds a bit like Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
Yeah, literally, I just saw it myself as well the other day.
You're a big fan of it because you came on our House of Animation podcast. That's a spoiler. We're eventually in a couple of weeks we'll have release it, but I know what a big fan you are, so I'm not surprised you picked Alice in Borderland at all.
Yeah, so I mean, Ben was really nice and gave me a few options, and my head went towards Alice in Borderland, which, to my surprise, it is actually linked in some way to Alice in Wonderland. I don't know how I didn't see it. I had to read it because they've got some cards. But basically, I do think it's a great show because it is quite interesting. It's a bit scary. It's a thriller. I'm not going to spoil it if people haven't watched it. I thought maybe I'm not going to like it because it's a lot of younger people, but it's also very apocalyptic, which is a topic I really like. So when that happened, that the whole Tokyo was empty, I was like, ooh, yeah, I like this.
They did it on a soundstage because I was trying to figure out how they did it. Because if you've gone to Tokyo or London, like 28 days later, I've always tried to figure out how do you get such a big city deserted. It's like, Tom Cruise in that film and the New York one. I'm always impressed. It's a stunning image when you see Tokyo just empty, and it's a soundstage, which is nuts.
Well, no, with 28 Days Later, they actually closed down a street in London. It wasn't done on a soundstage. It was actually done on a street in London. They only closed off one road, and they just took out the sound of all the other roads, and they tried to film everything using different angles of one road, basically.
I have seen a deleted scene. There was one guy, you could hear someone from the pub go, "Oi!" and the soft shot.
No, it's brilliant. Yeah, like you say, I don't know how they've done it. They've probably got some apps also to delete because it's such a place to do it. And it's from 1 second to another. It's three friends, and they come out, and everyone's gone. And it's all about sort of like a bit sadistic game where they're kind of in between life and death, and having to survive through different kinds of tests, I would say. Some which involve strength and having to do physical things, some others which are more like having to figure out something more, so it's more about your capacities and understanding how the game works or the architecture of the building sort of thing in order to escape. But it's really brutal in the sense that that's a bit of a struggle because some people are being killed in a very brutal way.
It's a show that will kill characters off. Like it will. I was quite amazed because there's a lot of shows where my thing with, for example, Walking Dead, there are certain characters that just won't get killed. There's no they feel safe. Plot armor. This show doesn't do that. This show will just will just kill you.
So I mean, expect the unexpected, definitely.
This is the X-Files.
And
so would you recommend it then, Alex?
I would recommend it. I am liking it. It's a good action. You know, you kind of go through it quite quickly, and it does really. It keeps you entertained because you're thinking, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna live? Who's gonna die? It's like really tense. And it's good in terms of like, you know, there's a variety between being in this like lovely, you know, blue sky scenes, very colorful, but when they're doing the games it could be really dark and like, you know, so you've got all the combination. There's a little bit of potential romance, so it's not all action killing. I guess it's an interesting idea about life and death and how some of the characters start developing a sense of like worth in what they've got because they could die any day.
What I like about Asian culture is it's like the main character is shown using his smarts instead of his muscles, and I've always respected that. Even in a lot of anime, like there's sometimes it's the guy that's very clever wins the day.
Like Log Horizon.
Yes, and that's always a good thing to show. No toxic masculinity, just like that. Nerds can be clever and save the day as well, and they're capable. It's a really good attitude to have for the show, I think. There's lots of different types here as well. There is a second season because I was worried that they would. This is what a lot of Japanese shows do based on a source material. They don't wait for it to finish. They normally do it. They normally start filming it or making it while the manga's ongoing. Thankfully, there is a second season. Netflix has commissioned a second season for this, so there should be a finish, eventually a conclusion to this saga, which is good.
That's good to know. Yeah, but so definitely recommend it.
So I'm really excited. And the Naked Director season 2 this year as well. So like Japan's finally, they don't normally do second seasons a lot in Japanese television. So I'm really happy that Netflix is trying to get some more second seasons for Japanese drama. That isn't just Terrace House all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely good. I'm glad to hear there's a season 2.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, speaking of which, like that's actually based off of a manga as well. And you know, like I want to chime in because like I actually watched the entire season of that show, and it feels as though like coming from video games, there's definitely like this thematic element of punishing youngsters and stuff that you know, like, because of an unknown future. Like I'm reminded of Battle Royale, you know, the movie from I think it's like Keiji Fujisaki or something. I forget the name. I'm sorry.
No,
but
it's perfect. You got it.
from video games, there's Danganronpa and Zero Escape, which is literally like they're going through all these different challenges and stuff just so that they can survive at the end of the day. So, which is actually the reason why we watched the show and stuff like Alice in Borderlands, and you know, I'm glad y'all are enjoying it.
It's a great show.
Yeah, it's very similar actually because I've got that game on my shelf actually because it's a visual novel. It's very wordy, those games, but again, it's the bracelet, like bomb collar type thing of if you don't do this puzzle, and it's really tense. I love those type of things. It's like what Gantz is used to do. Gantz is another. You might have heard of it. Netflix has got like original Gantz. Gantz is another one where it's like very you got to fight to survive, but you've also got a timer on you as well. That Japan loves to do a lot in its stuff. I really am a big fan of it.
So it's a theme. It's a theme in Japan, really.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of back and forth. There's a big age thing in Japan now at the moment where the youngsters are trying to have more power to society. Japan's very because there's a lack of children being produced at the moment because Japanese people work so hard. There is a big fear. There's more older people. There's a whole thing of people. There's not a lot of younger people to look after the older people now in the care system.
Okay.
So they're going through incredible changes at the moment. Japanese culture. There's a lot of Me Too moments going on as well. There's a lot of pressure on Japanese businessmen to be more respectful of women, and it's an interesting time to watch it from afar. My wife's also keeping an eye on it as well, so it's an interesting time.
Yeah, really
Cool. Well, hope you enjoyed the pick. That's me.
Absolutely did. I will check it out.
Great pick.
Who's up next?
Who wants to go? I'll go.
Go on.
I want to. Okay, I talked about Terrace House when we first started this podcast, which is a reality dating show. Obviously, because of what happened, unfortunately, last year to Hannah Kimura, it's been cancelled because a lot of stuff came out. It was there. A lot of people come forward and said that they weren't living in the house. That they were, like, how do I say it? Like they were just filming the scenes there. It was all very fake, and I did moan that Terrace House was very stale, very boring. They just sat at the kitchen table. You guys may remember this. I felt like nothing was happening. Well, I want to talk about Ainori, which is I've just seen. It's a show where 7 people come together in a foreign country, Japanese people, and they travel around on a pink bus. I've watched the African Journey season, and it's just more light-hearted and more fun. It's very different from Western style show about. It is obviously it's set up. It's a reality TV show, and I'm sure it's staged in certain places, but it feels more authentic because they're always traveling together. I mean, even in the intro, you can see a lot of uncut scenes of them just talking to the locals wherever they go, trying to find love. There's a lot that they cut out of it, but it feels more real to me than Terrace House because you can see all the stuff they had to cut out, and it's just a really good feel good show, and it's very tense. Like you were talking about how tense Alice in Borderland was, Alexandra. See, I got it right. This one's more when someone confesses their love. It's literally you either go back to Japan with them, or you're going back on your own, and it's really tense. You can really get into it. I mean, because of this show, because I have it on a tablet, I've downloaded episodes. People have laughed at me because I react. I get so invested on journeys into work. I'm reacting because if I'm really into a potential relationship, I don't want them to leave the show. And sometimes I'm scared and happy for them. Like, oh no, he's going for it. He's going to tell her how he feels. And you just kind of hope it doesn't backfire for them. It's a really good show, and I think a lot of people don't know about it as much as Terrace House.
No, I haven't heard about it.
Ainori. It's called Love Wagon, and it's also a Netflix original. And I just wanted to bring that show up. I don't know what you guys think of it, but like for me, it's just a show that I don't think gets talked about a lot.
Fair enough. I mean,
Got ya.
nowhere near my wheelhouse, to be honest. But
You'll be surprised, I think. I've shown it to people that don't like reality shows, and they've kind of gone, oh, it's really Japanese style, but it's just interesting that they go to Africa and travel around, and then when somebody goes, somebody else jumps on. And it educates you about the countries they go through. It's just a really interesting mix of a show, because Japan doesn't really do much mixing with international countries, really. They're kind of like an island a lot. They're now beginning to learn a lot, and it's really good to see a different style. It's not set in Japan as well, so it's kind of like going on holiday with them as well.
But it's all Japanese actors. Well,
No.
not actors. It's real. It's a reality show. So
Well, I think it is staged a tiny bit, but not like Terrace House, where it's very bloody obvious. Where because the camera is in Terrace House is like it's set up. It feels really fake. But finally, there's a lot of handheld camera, like always following them about. It's always chaotic, moving. It does feel like it. I know there's mostly things where it is a bit staged for the cameras, but it feels a lot more authentic and real. And the theme tune is lovely.
I suppose some good endings.
Yeah, and there's like it's not boring. And that's the thing about Terrace House. It's interesting to watch to understand how Japanese culture. It's very interesting to see how Japanese people treat romance. But Terrace House is very static and boring, and they always seem to be sat at the kitchen table doing nothing. And yeah, I just want to big up Ainoli, not shooting down Terrace House, but Ainori, I would love more people to watch it and for it to continue to be made by Netflix, because Terrace House is most probably not going to come back now, because you know what unfortunately happened with Hana Kimura is horrible, and I think it's now got a black mark on it and it won't be able to come back.
Can I ask?
Unfortunately, she took her life after some quite severe levels of harassment.
She was a kind of like a celebrity in Japan, because she's a big she was up and covering stardom in Japan. I clocked her when I saw her because I follow Japanese wrestling, so I knew who that was. But what happened is it all came out like that. She was forced to make this up, that's scripted to like hit. She didn't even hit him. But the amount of online bullying that she got, she took her own life shortly afterwards, after it aired. And so now there's new laws in Japan where they're going to be really strict on online bullying.
Okay.
You know, right, it's a jail term now. It's something that I think the rest of the world could learn from, actually, because it is a big problem at the moment, isn't it? Online harassment of everyone.
That's an entirely different podcast. We could go into hours of discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, just go watch Ainoli. It's it's like Alex's theme tune of his podcast. It's really catchy and it will stay in your head. It's brilliant.
Thanks.
Definitely. Let's go watch that. That's my recommendation. Who would like to go next?
Can I go next?
Absolutely.
Let's go with this theme of like talking about romance and trying to figure things out, people trying to figure things out in Japan, like romance, because of their schedule. I watched a show, and this was I think we watched it last year, called The Naked Director. Has anybody seen this show?
No, but intrigued.
I was going to watch it when my wife comes back, because she's a big fan of the actors, and there's a second season. It's in my log, but you can pump me up for this. I'm really excited.
So season 2 is actually arriving this June 24th specifically, and it's a semi-biographical comedy/drama about a famous porn director named Masaharu Take, and it's just this all about how he upended like the Japanese porn industry and kind of turned it on its head. And and I actually watched it dubbed, so it's even doubly hilarious because oh my goodness, like it is so crazy. Like if I know that a lot, some of you guys like love watching Japanese shows and anime subtitled, but dear heavens, like watch this in English dub. It is hilarious, like in English dub. But that's generally the gist of it, is that like this guy is just really not happy with his lot in life and stuff, and so he started trying to kind of find where his passions are, and he found it in pornography. And all this time he's being kind of stopped by all these massive authorities in that industry in Japan, even including like politicians that have tried to put a kibosh on like everything that he's trying to do, to the point where he discovered this one star, this really kind of wild child of a girl who really kind of was the star of a lot of his films. And also, he's not just a director, he's also one of the actors, right? And so it's this whole like 10 episode arc or rather 8 episode arc where he just kind of, subverts the expectation of what pornography is in Japan, because of also dealing with a lot of his personal frustrations of his life and what's going on in his life as well. And it's kind of, oddly enough, even though the subject matter is about porn, it's actually very endearing to kind of see him just push through and kind of really put out there like what he believes to be like his best work. Like he's so passionate about pornography, it's almost like, wow, I've never seen anybody so passionate about this. But it's also, the characters are very endearing. They all kind of like come from this place where they've been kind of just put down because of their their lot in life in Japan, which is kind of a common theme in Japan sometimes, where because of the society and the culture, you're easily put down because you're not contributing to the greater society as a whole. But then this guy basically says like, well, I'll contribute to it in a very different way. And so you'll find yourself throughout the show just wanting to cheer for this character to really do well. And despite him being put down and stuff, and really like, having a lot of challenges, even with the distribution of his videos and stuff. Like there are times where competing companies would just basically try to strong arm him out of video stores, and I was like, man, that's really crazy. And I felt like, as an entrepreneur, like I found it really entertaining to just watch somebody else go through like their fictionalized account of like how they kind of really grew in Japan, I guess, no pun intended. But yeah, like I highly recommend it.
From what I've seen of the trailer, and this is what I love about Japanese comedy, they go really loud because Japanese people are quite normally laid back, very straightforward. But their comedy is the complete opposite of that. I think that they go big and loud, and that's what I appreciate about Japanese comedy. Am I correct? Because it does seem like big performances.
Yeah, there's a saying in Japanese, and I hope I get it right. A nail that's, I think it goes along the lines of like, a nail that's sticking out needs to be hammered down.
Yeah.
And that speaks a lot to like, if you're like a Westerner and you go to Japan and you're so boisterous and stuff, like Japanese people actually don't appreciate that, dressing in loud colors and stuff, like, because everything in Japan is all about, the betterment of the whole, which is why like you have these kinds of conflicts where people are forced into overtime a lot and without any sort of consideration to the individual, and that's kind of the opposite in the West. Like we value a lot of our individuality here. And and I think that's kind of an interesting conflict that shows up from time to time in many shows, and of course like Naked Director is a great example of that as well.
I remember one time I was in Japan, and this is a good example. There was this really excited American guy. He seemed really friendly, but he's so he was so happy to be in Japan. You just saw all the Japanese people just kind of give him an extra bit of space, like a bomb going off. It's like, yep, we're just gonna separate. It's quite funny to watch. He was so happy to be in Japan. Friendly guy, but it just they didn't go near him. They weren't too sure how to appropriate with the energy. Yeah. But yeah, it's one that I've wanted to watch for a long time. So that's definitely something that I'm going to bring forward now, because I mean, it's good that Netflix doesn't do a lot of Japanese originals, and it's good to see they're making more of an effort now with their global outreach for more diversity. I think it's really good that we're getting more Japanese dramas now. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also kind of bring attention to like one other show that I kind of wanted to bring up, and it's called like Midnight Diner, and I'm just gonna say my quick piece about it. It's, if you want like a relaxing Japanese show to watch, I highly recommend this. All the show is all about, it's an anthology. So it's all about like all these individual people who come to this diner at midnight to eat, and the chef basically makes whatever dish they want, no questions asked. And it's really a story about the people who come in at the diner and stuff. And if you really want a chill show to watch, it's Japanese. There's no dub for this, unfortunately. Like, I highly recommend Midnight Diner.
It's really good, though, because you get a good insight into how Japanese people interact with each other in the show, though, because it's a very quiet show. Some people have told me it's boring, but I love it. I love this show. It's very focused on character work. The customers are the main. Every episode is a standalone. You can watch any order, and it's a very quiet, good show. It's brilliant.
And it's also based on a manga, isn't it? I think.
You get Alex pulling that one out. Yes, Alexandra, well done. I'm sorry. Well,
the thing is, I'm making a list, guys, so I'm gonna go away and watch lots of stuff.
That's impressive. That was really good. Yeah, it is based on a manga. Yeah, it's really popular according to my wife in Japan. Like, it's big name in Japan. Like, it's a big show. So Netflix brought it over a couple of years ago. They've got the original one from TV Tokyo, and now Netflix is owning the new one. So like, it's good. Go watch everything of it. It's brilliant.
All right, that goes on the list then.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex.
No problem.
Brilliant. So who's next?
Yeah. I'm gonna go next.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Choice claiming twice.
All right. Okay. Speaking of toxic masculinity.
Uh-oh.
All right.
What?
Okay.
We might have to apologize for your pick.
There we go. Let's go, guys.
Here we go.
All you alphas out
dear.
there.
What
All
do
you
you
alphas
film?
out there. Let's go. All right. My show. This is my only pick, though, by the way.
Okay.
It's called Hakoto no Ken, Fist of the North Star.
Classic.
There we go. Okay. Fist of the North Star is very infamous. If you've probably never heard of it or seen it. Originally, when I was really young, got exposed to this. Anyone used to watch like wrestling like 1 a.m. in the morning? There used to be anime shows literally right after it or even just before it started, like in the AM in the morning over here in the UK.
Yeah.
There used to be the Ninja Scroll movie.
Yeah.
You'd see in the Shell. You see all these kind of things. You see in the issue. You'd see Fist of the North Star. I got used to all that stuff in violence early.
Oh yeah.
Just these shows. It's crazy. But the animation caught me. And I was a fan of martial arts as a kid as well. Literally, especially my dad, he used to watch a lot of martial arts as well. As a kid. So, Fist of the North Star. It's on Amazon. You probably find. I think it's the first season's on Amazon. Prime. So yeah. So you'll see that on there. So it's basically based off of it's based off a manga. So it's a TV show. It's based off a manga. That came out in literally the 80s, the early 80s. I think it's like 84 to 87. The original the original anime came out then, and the original manga came out in 83. There you go. So there was 2 seasons of it. The first season was like a lot of episodes, 109 episodes overall in the first season. Yeah, that's the first season. That's the original like series as a whole. Then it came out like literally with 43 episodes later on, like in 87. So it's a couple of years in each season. But it has a main character called Kenshiro.
Yeah.
So Kenshiro, so he's like a archetype. Like anyone who's seen the Mad Max series knows exactly the kind of a similar backstory to Kenshiro. Post-apocalyptic world, the world's gone to crap. Government is like non-existent, like literally at this point.
Oh, wow.
Water supply is running low, contaminated. The usual stuff you see in the post-apocalyptic world. So Kenshiro, he's a martial artist. He's got this style called Hakuto Shinken. It's like an ancient martial arts that's kept him going. He's learning from a master, and he has a rival called Rao. He's like, so like an older brother. I think he's older brother. He had a fiance called Yuria.
I know what happens to her. Yes.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, so
No
yes,
spoilers.
you know. There we go. So some of you know what happens in the show or in the story, because there is an updated version later on, but I've got that on DVD. But we talk about the original series right now. He goes around, collects a few people along the way. He's saving people on his journey to finding his fiance, and throughout all this way, he's this style that he has, this technique, so violent,
People explode, yo.
so aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is why I brought up the toxic masculinity. This is the all alpha right here. This is Kenshiro.
You know what you've just done? You made me remind myself. I'm a big fan of the Yakuza studio games. They've got a Fist of the North Star game that I've just ordered on Amazon because.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
Right. My wife's gonna love you. Well done.
But yeah, so literally, he's like the Mel Gibson of the show. He's the main character. He's the Mad Max, and he's running through the desert. Like most of the time, it's like desert land. Most of the time, runs into biker gangs. He runs into all sorts of people, and they're attacking people. You know what I'm saying? Not taking everyone's money. They're robbing people. They're killing people. And these techniques, he's taking out massive guys. These almost alien mutant type geezers. These guys. And it's so unbelievable, but epic at the same time. It's like that's what you hear a lot in the show.
Yeah.
It's like a Bruce Lee type thing. That's what he's got going on. He's hitting pressure points. People explode, as I said before, heads exploding, body parts flying off. But at the same time, all this guy wants is peace. You know? He wants peace.
Yeah, he just wants to be left alone.
Yeah, he just wants to be left alone. You know, so live his life. You know what I'm saying?
It's like Daredevil.
All right,
just
Mr. Banner.
yeah, exactly. It's like Bruce Banner. I don't want to cause any trouble. Can you just leave me alone for 5 minutes?
Yes, that's basically what he is. He doesn't. He's walking around with a hoodie most of the time. He's got like a massive shroud around him. He's walking around the desert like face all blacked out until people actually mess with him. Then he just throws it off. No, see, this guy's huge, by the way. This guy's massive. This guy legit is huge.
He looks like I mean, you know, if I can interject, like he looks like if Bruce Lee and Sylvester Stallone merged into one person.
Yes, that's basically that is a great description, by the way.
That's an image I'm never losing.
Just if you see the show, he's right.
Yeah, no, it's accurate.
Yeah, no arguments there, man. I couldn't put it better.
That's what shows that's amazing. I love that. But yeah, as the shows, there's even some point in the show where I literally talk about it to this day. I'm like, oh my days, you can't believe they actually did this in the show. His brother at some point, it's a fight. They fight each other. It's pure madness. Chaos happens right now. The earth's like shaking. It's crazy. It's kicking off. And then at some point, I don't know what happens. I don't know if you guys can explain to me. Even when I was a kid, I still can't explain it to this day. He just like stands there. He almost like he gives up, puts his fist to the sky, and almost like he ascends to heaven. I'm like, what is this? Like, it was so amazing at the same time. But I loved it.
I mean, this show's insane. There's a very famous meme now of him ripping arms off and just slapping people about over the head.
It's epic. It's the silly way, but it's epic at the same time. If you're a fan of martial arts, if you're a fan of the Mad Max series, if you're a fan of the Bruce Lee, even the sound effects, even that, you're gonna love this show. Post-apocalyptic stuff. Anyone's into that kind of thing? Hey. So much goodness in this show. So much greatness. My gosh.
Troy, I have to ask you something, though.
Go on.
So, have you watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Oh, I knew you'd bring it up. He
loves JoJo. He doesn't shut up about JoJo, Alex. He's like...
Trust me. Hey, trust me, Alex. Ben bought me a cap from Japan.
Yeah.
With JoJo's characters on it.
And because my wife said, why don't we get him a JoJo cap? Because like she knows what big fan he was. We came back from Japan with one for him, and he's wearing it all the time in his YouTube videos. It's ridiculous. It's
my
good
goodness.
to see someone so passionate about JoJo. Like,
yeah, trust me, I am.
I can go for hours talking about JoJo, so I'm gonna stop right there.
No, trust me, don't get me started, please.
One day we'll do a special and we'll call you back.
Yeah,
we can
you
do a
can
whole
come back on for a JoJo special.
JoJo was such a great show. But yeah.
That show is insane.
Trust me, you think this show is crazy.
No, I love JoJo. It's just unashamedly anime. It doesn't care.
It's weird.
Oh, it's weird. So good.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, Mr. North Star, my pick. Amazon, you can check out first season on there. A few others you probably kind of seek them out. They've got some original video animations as well. So there's that little addition to the series as well, those spin-offs. But yeah, that's just my pick. Fist of the North Star. There you go.
Awesome.
Nice.
Good.
Tom, would you like to take next?
I'm happy to let you go next, Dan, so we can bookend it with the two people who know the least about Japanese TV, or I can go now. I don't mind.
I'm interested to know what you're going to talk about.
I'll leave it to you for now. I'll bring up the rear.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. So, as I've just said, quite openly, I am not the Japanese TV specialist on this podcast by any stretch of the imagination. I know bugger all about Japanese TV, to be honest. So when we decided we were doing this, fortunately, Ben gave us quite a long heads up to this. So I went onto Netflix. I typed in Japanese TV. And it came up with something that I don't know if you've heard of. It's a show called High Rise Invasion. Do any of you know this?
Heard of it, yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so It's an interesting show. It's based on a manga series from 2013 to 2019. I think there are about 21, 22 editions of it. It just dropped in like February of 2021. It had quite a lot of kind of hype going around it. It's made by a company called Zero G Studio. It's an anime. Yeah, it's odd. I tried to watch the first episode like in Japanese with subtitles, couldn't do it, and switched to the American dub version.
That's the beauty of dubs, actually, because I listen in Japanese, but I think it's good to have the option as well.
Yes, but I did try and do it without doing the American dub, but I would have got far too lost. Anyway, this show, if you don't know it, it's basically the basic premise is that a whole load of people wake up in an alternative universe that looks similar, but it's a city full of high rises with rope bridges between them and stuff. And there's a whole load of people with masks whose entire job is to try and make you kill yourself. So they want to hurt you, they will beat you, they will kick you, but they want you to kill yourself and jump off one of these high rises.
Oh, wow.
That's the basic.
Dark.
It's dark. It's fucking dark. If you put up on Netflix, it says this is an 18 with sexual violence and suicide. Or it's 2 points that it prints out for things to warn you about what this show is about.
Wow.
It is bloody. It is gory. It's my kind of thing, basically, because my favorite thing ever with and it's not really anime, was from Kill Bill when they had that bit about Lucy Liu's backstory.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that, which is why High Rise Invasion caught my attention. It's difficult to say whether I like it or not. It's fast paced, and I mean, bam, you're straight in. People getting shot in the head, people getting thrown off buildings. It's fucked up in so many different levels. And you've got people who are able to control the masks. The people who have the masks have been controlled. And if they take the mask off, it's gone into their synapses, so they'll then try and kill themselves if somebody interferes with their mask.
So it's the last Suicide Squad.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And so it's a very fucking thing. But one of the characters, who's called Sniper Mask, who turns out to be a good guy in the end, gets a tiny crack in his mask, so starts getting his own personality back again, and things like that. And you've got my biggest issue with this show is the three kind of main female characters are all schoolgirls, and they've got an obsession with making them take their clothes off and looking at their stuff.
Welcome to anime, mate.
Every bloody time.
Yes.
Literally, they could have called this Thigh Rise Invasion, and it would have been absolutely
Thigh Rise.
Welcome to the reason. Sometimes the downside of anime sometimes is
the
subject matter is a bit creepy.
I enjoy the show, but in the very first episode, there's a sexual assault of a schoolgirl.
Oh dear.
Who they're about to be assaulted, and then Sniper Mask puts a bullet through the guy's head. So
this is why I tend to run away from fan service shows in the other direction, so I'm not associated with it.
Yeah, like I say, it's a brilliant show. It's a brilliant show in some respects. It's really creepy in other respects. And I genuinely don't know how I feel about it. It's getting a second season because they're only part of the way through the story, but it is violent as hell. It is blood and gore everywhere, which suits me down to the ground. But there are moments when it's just a little bit uncomfortable. There's a lot of kind of lesbian suggestion in there as well, and it's just you have to watch it to truly understand what I mean.
Welcome to anime.
Yeah. Like I said, I would actually say go and watch it, because I don't know if this is kind of normal for anime. It probably is, but I enjoyed parts of it and really didn't like other parts of it. But
there's a lot of variety in anime.
But I thought it was worth bringing.
This is the dark side of anime that you've seen.
Well, I knew that I was going for something that was violent, because that was my thing. I'm a fan of kind of like horrors and violence and that kind of, so I thought if I'm going to go into a completely new genre, I may as well do it with something that I kind of trust and know. So I picked something that was like that, so that's why I picked it. But I would say go and watch, if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. I've actually started reading the manga, and it's quite cool. So
nice.
Wow. So
I'm properly kind of researching.
Yes, we got him.
Yeah. We've got some really dark choices this week, and Paul. It's an interesting mix here.
But yeah, like I said, that's all I really have to say because I'm not the Japanese TV guy, but High Rise Invasion, it is definitely an experience.
And where can we see that? Where did you watch
It's on Netflix.
Wow. Netflix.
Netflix.
Reading.
Netflix is winning right now.
You're not reading the manga.
He might get arrested if he's reading. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I've started. It's online. It's all available online. So I've started reading like the first volume of the manga as well,
Oh, nice.
just to see how much it kind of correlated with what they did on the show.
In the privacy of your own house. I wouldn't
Oh,
take
yeah.
that into the public. Okay.
Maybe.
Dan, are you going to continue the bloodlust?
No, but okay. So my pick for today is can just wait for a second. It's like you guys know, some of the audience know. Like I come from a place where my early childhood, my dad worked in animation. He was either educating people in how to do CGI or was doing CGI consulting himself. And like anytime we saw something new in any level of animation, he would talk to me about it, like technically, even when I was really young. He'd dumb it down for me, but I was fascinated by it. And he was the person who introduced me to anime through My Neighbor Totoro, which is a Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli film. Just really, really nice lyrical story about coming to terms with the world as it is and still maintaining some magic. I've gone through a lot of anime since then. Not a lot of Japanese TV otherwise, but all of the classics, most of them introduced by my dad, or else later on introduced by Sammy, who the audience will know as well.
Yeah.
And I was going to come here. I was up until earlier this week, I was all set to come here and talk to you about a series called So I'm a Spider, So What? Which I'm sure a lot of people have seen in this crew. You familiar with it?
I'm a spider?
Yes,
So I'm a spider, so what?
Yeah.
No, I'm not familiar. But...
Not really. Me neither.
Well, I'm going to go into detail on that one on another podcast because it's well worth it. And in the meantime, plug worth a watch.
Okay.
But then I found this other one that's only just started. It's only 4 episodes in at this point. And it's one of these anime that has like very anthropomorphic animal-faced cast.
Oh, is it Beastars?
No, I've seen Beastars, and it's really good.
Oh, okay.
But this is called Odd Taxi.
Odd Taxi. Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And the first look of it looks quite unassuming. It's another kind of. It seems initially another sort of slice of life, but with anthropomorphic characters and social commentary kind of thing. At the very, very first glance. Look any closer at it, and it's a noir. And it's a really complex noir as well that's designed to keep the audience guessing and searching for more clues. And the scope of this and how, like already at the 4th episode, the effort that the creators have gone to give a really deep audience participation ability in terms of following the story, not in terms of like creating it, but there's so many ways to follow it. The initial story it centers around a taxi driver who is a walrus driver. And he's called Odokawa. and he's voiced by Natsuki Hane. He's around 41 years old. He's not got any real family connections. His best friends are an old high school buddy who's a bit of a loser, and his physician. They're like the closest thing he has to proper friends. And like he gets a lot of passengers, and most of the way he spends his time is having conversations with these passengers. And initially, whenever you start watching the anime, it looks like it's going to be a lot about social commentary. As a college age hippo gets in the back seat and starts talking about how he needs to go viral. And how like going viral indicates your self-worth and all of this sort of stuff. And right before that, there's been a conversation on the radio about what comedy is and what people's expectations for things should be. It gets to that point, and you're sort of lulled into this false sense of security. But then very quickly, it turns into this possible psychological thriller, possible crime noir. You're not being let in on the genre yet, even kind of level of mystery, intrigue, lots of things that match up as the series gets deeper and denser, and connections that get made that leave you wondering why they're there. Just watching the anime itself, I've watched it twice through now, and on the second watch, there's extra details that you miss.
Okay.
And so then I went looking for like info on this because I was like, this has to go to the podcast. We're doing the Japan special. It has to happen. Right? And I found out something else. So the two conversations that I've just mentioned, the one with the hippo about going viral, he has an actual Twitter account in the real world. And his Twitter account has continued on further than the series has and gives clues as to what happens further on in the series, but not enough to tell you what's actually happening because it's all from perspective. And he keeps trying to go viral. And what happens from there, I'm going to leave to people to figure out. The conversation that's happening on the radio between these two members of this comedy group called Homo Sapiens. One of them reads out a letter from a high school student or a college student who is seemingly very, very astute as to what they're talking about and is making like really, really intriguing comments, but also is very, very judgmental. There's an actual audio drama going along episode by episode that you can find, but isn't actually advertised from the point of view of that character who's writing those letters, who's found this sort of spying device that looks like an orange capped pen and leaves it all around the place. And you can see this orange capped pen in the anime. The beginning sequence for it, the title sequence for the anime, the music that's used in it. There's a music video that's up on YouTube right now that has the voice actors appear as humans. And only whenever it's viewed from the point of view of the walrus taxi driver does anyone look like animal. And when it's the taxi driver looking, even the people, the duo that sing the song, look like animals as well. And it leads to this sort of theory of is this whole anthropomorphization, is that actually part of the taxi driver's mental illness? Or is that the way the world is? And I don't want to give a lot of stuff away, but it revolves around there's a missing high school girl, the member of a powerful family. There's a Japanese idol group. There's this sort of office worker code monkey kind of guy who is obsessed with trying to find some kind of meaning but is looking in all the wrong places. There's a nurse who has a secret. There's just there's so much stuff going on in this anime, and it has to be watched. Everyone has to watch this. Everyone's going to enjoy it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And is this where can you watch this?
This would be on Crunchyroll.
Oh, Crunchyroll. I'm surprised it took us this long to get to Crunchyroll on this pick, actually. Really good site, Alex. That's just it's all anime straight from Japan. They sub it and subtitle it, and it's when Japan's had it, then it's automatically quickly uploaded for Westerns. Brilliant site.
Crunchyroll. Okay, thank you, Dan.
Yeah. £5, I think, a month. Is it still £5, Dan?
That's what I'm paying.
Oh, cool. Very cheap. I haven't used it in a while, but like it's a good site. Go do Funimation as well. Like they're pretty cool.
But yeah, seriously, if you get a chance, watch this show. This show is deep. This show is intriguing. This show is funny. It's subtle. This isn't one of those ones where you're going to get a lot of, yeah, we're fighting, action.
Here's my muscle.
It's script driven. It's dialogue driven. It's brilliant.
No, that reminds me of that movie Collateral.
Sold.
Can I just make one other discovery I made just while I was doing the research for this one? Cool. Is that there is it's not Japanese, it's Korean, a manhwa, which is coming to, I think it's in summer 2021 or fall 2021. It's called Solo Leveling.
Okay.
And if you're a fan of that sort of lit RPG, isekai, loner, gets it done, like all of that, it's going to be really good. Okay. If you were at all a fan of Sword Art Online, it's going to be really good.
Wow.
If you're a fan of a Furieta from Commonplace to World's Strongest, it's going to be really good.
Okay.
Can I chime in with one last recommendation? I think I have the perfect TV show that encapsulates everyone's recommendations in today's show.
Go for it.
Yeah. And I think all of you will enjoy this, and I'm probably going to link you guys where you can watch it, because you can't watch it anywhere unless you have access to YouTube, because that's the only place you can watch this in. And it's a TV series that showed back in 1998. It's called Great Teacher Onizuka. Has anybody heard of this show?
Oh, this is a brilliant show. It made me want to be a teacher in Japan.
So to kind of, quickly go over like what this is all about. It's all about this guy named Akichi Onizuka. He's 22 years old, and his goal is to be the greatest teacher in all of Japan and possibly the world. The problem is that he is an motorcycle gang member who used to be like the leader of like one of the most notorious, biker gangs in all of Japan. And he's a virgin. I guess that's the thing. And one of his original reasons why he wanted to be a teacher was so he can perv on some students. But the whole goal he's always had is to be like the best teacher out there. And so after suplexing the assistant principal of this one school, the main principal hires him on to take on one of the roughest, toughest classes in that school. And they've tried to torture him, like not like physically and stuff, but like mentally torture him and stuff. And to the point where there are other teachers before him that have literally quit that profession altogether because they're so rough. But given that Eikichi is such a badass and stuff, like he schools all the students, he slowly wins them on his side. And there are references to Fist of the North Star in the show. Yes. Literally, like he uses a Sharpie and draws like Kenshiro's tattoos on his chest. So you kind of, get to the point. And
I love when voice actors in Japan act like Yakuza. It's so funny to me. The deep voice, like walking around acting like a Yakuza. Because I'm a big fan of the Yakuza video game series, and I always get really pumped up when they start talking like deep voice, because you're kind of like, oh, I'm pumped up for this next battle. It's like all the menacing style, the posturing. It's very funny to me when I see it in anime. Like,
but here's the catch, though. This is live action. I'm not recommending the anime. I'm recommending the live action adaptation.
Oh, okay.
12 episodes.
The anime. Okay.
I'll check it out.
And that is really good because it, there's some fantastical elements to the anime, even though it's still grounded in reality. But the live action show grounds it in even more reality and does a little bit kind of creative license to kind of merge some of the characters, because it's only 12 episodes as opposed to like, I don't know, I don't know how long the other episodes are, but it's like probably more than like 43 episodes or something like that. But in 12 episodes, you can pretty much understand the entire arc of the show, and I think you all will enjoy it. I highly recommend it. And yeah, I'm gonna paste it in the chat so you guys can find it. Hopefully, it works in like wherever country you're in, because I don't know where this guy's from.
Okay, that's awesome. Because like I've got one more question. Does the actors match the energy of the anime original?
Absolutely.
Very high energy.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna love it. I can see it already. I'm gonna love it.
It sounds like Phoenix. It sounds like when I watched the live action Phoenix Wright movie, like they're perfect. Like their energy levels were off the chain in that movie. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, this character is the guy who plays Akichi is a popular actor named Takashi Sorimachi. So he was like a pop star and stuff like in Japan. He's part of like a bunch of boy bands and stuff, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. But like he really embodied that role. And I remember reading like articles saying like he really enjoyed the role because like he really liked the manga and the anime. So or probably the manga because the anime it wasn't out, but yeah, I highly recommend it. And again, it's on YouTube. You can watch it anytime. It's gonna be the best like 12 hours you'll ever spend, I think.
And they can't be worse than AKB's actresses when they turn up in live action TV shows.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, dear.
Sorry.
Here we go.
Every time I watch a Japanese drama,
jeez.
there's a former member of AKB somewhere lurking.
Ben, you gotta let this go, man.
You gotta let it go, man.
They ruined it.
And I just want to be very absolutely clear. This is the GTO live action adaptation from 1998, because there's a second one that's on Crunchyroll, and I don't like that one.
Right, that's good, because I thought that there was another version of it as well. So I was about to ask you. That was a good. Okay, cool. That's good clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Alex, by the way, have you seen a show called Full Metal Panic?
Oh wow, okay, Full Metal Panic.
No, I mean no. Wait, I shouldn't say no. I watched it a long time ago, but I never continued it.
In terms of school settings, that's probably my favorite school setting.
It's so good.
Full Metal Panic, love it.
I love. That's really funny because I love the comedy of him trying to be a normal person, but he's a trained operative.
Exactly.
And I actually have like a personal recommendation for Alexandra, because like since you like intellectual kind of shows and stuff like that, like on Netflix, it is kind of just as dark as Alice in Borderland, but there's a show called Kakegurui, which is just as kind of, it has like young people, and there's also like this kind of intellectual aspect of it. And the whole premise of the show is that in this particular school, gambling is a thing that happens on the regular, and in order for you to get to the upper echelon, the upper tier of the school and get good grades or whatever, you have to gamble your standing and your reputation, using a bunch of different things, not just like like cards and blackjack and all that stuff, but different kinds of implements. So I highly recommend that too. And I think the series isn't done. The live action series is, and it is on Netflix. The live action one, I do recommend the live action one over the anime for this purpose.
It's like absolutely. It's a good show. I would highly recommend that as well. Actually, really good.
Yeah, I'm just typing it like in the chat so that you know the spelling.
Because Kakegurui.
Yeah, because that sounds like something I probably. Yeah.
It's really good. Again, no, like it's like Erased is also on Netflix. There's a live action and an anime. You've always got to separate them, I find. Okay. Right. That is
Too
it.
bad you guys don't have like a Netflix, like, sponsorship. There's a lot of
We were open to
We don't.
sponsorship.
We
We're, not-
You have a take what you can get sponsorship.
we're happy. Just in anyone's listening, we're happy to have any sponsorship.
We'll take it.
Good.
So far, we're being sponsored in questions about beards.
Okay, well, thank you for coming across today, Alex. Where can people find you on your socials and everything?
You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/backlog battle. I review a lot of JRPGs, Japanese games, and niche games, and more. Like, it's not just stuck into Japanese territory. Like, I do venture from time to time. I made a video on Disco Elysium, for example. I make videos on all, for games on all platforms. Like, I reviewed Fantasian, which was an Apple Arcade. And if you like Persona, Yakuza, and all those other games, like, you'll find them on my channel. And if you just want to chat, like, go on Twitter, twitter.com/mybacklogbattle. I'm always there, even though I don't tweet a lot these days. I've been so busy with reviews. It's kind of crazy. And I think depending on like when this is out, I am working on my Near Replicant review. So that's going to be really exciting. So, but yeah, thanks for having me. I've had such a blast. I actually didn't even realize how many Japanese TV shows that I really liked until I came on the show. So this has been great.
It's really been interesting though, because I've written everything down for the tags, and it's a good variation actually. Really interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you for
that showed quite a lot of the diversity of Japanese TV.
That's it. That's what we wanted to do today, was show everybody that there's a lot more. There's so much taste out there, because Korean TV, a lot of other countries get like a lot of attention, and I think it's good that we can talk about Japanese TV today to like show the diversity. So mission accomplished. We have got today, as we record, you may have noticed that the new first episode of our spin-off podcast is in the stream now, House of Animation. We're really proud of it. Tara is going to be going across there, and I can tell you that Alexandra and Dan have come across for Spirited Away, which is further down the line, and Tom wants to do Aladdin. So please come over and check it out. It's the first episode's on Toy Story. It's brilliant. Well, I'm sounding cocky, but we're very proud of it. We think it's great.
It is good. Good.
It is actually. I am not involved in it. It is actually.
Yeah. Dan's coming in a few episodes. Alexandra's coming in a few episodes. Just support it. Let us know if you like it. We'll do more of them. You ask for diversity. We're going to try.
Like, share, subscribe, guys.
That's it. It's already done big numbers on our YouTube. It's done more than normal. So we're really proud of it. So we're really happy. So, okay. So let's wrap it up. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Bye from me.
Bye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Laters.
Okay. See you guys next week. Thank you very much. Awesome.